everyone. Welcome to another edition of Where the 99 Leads. It's a program brought to you by the University of Pikeville where we talk many different subjects in and around the University of Pikeville. Academics, athletics, different programs and courses. And today, a special program as we talk about a cross-cultural weekend and integrating different subjects with students. Joined by Dr. Darla French, Assistant Professor of Biology. Welcome back. You've been here before.
It has been a while, but yeah.
Very good. I'm looking forward to today's show. For those that missed that episode, let's reintroduce Dr. Darla French to those that are tuned in. Tell us about your background.
So I am in my fourth year here at UPike, and I teach in the biology department.
Very good.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up near Cleveland, Ohio, and I went to a small liberal arts school for undergraduate college called College of Worcester, and then I went to Purdue University for my master's and my PhD.
Home of the Boilermakers.
Home of the Boilermakers.
Dr. Darla French, Assistant Professor of Biology, our guest, along with Diane Whittier, International Student and Scholar Services at the University of Pikeville. Your first time here.
Yes.
Let's hear your background and how you arrived here.
I am a paralegal by training, and I worked for the U.S. Attorney and the Attorney General in various states. I'm married to Dr. Tim Whittier, and we moved to Pikeville about 5 years ago. And I have a lot of experience with international students. We have an international daughter, and so this is a perfect fit for me at the University of Pikeville.
And a growing trend at UPike
Yes.
is international students.
Yes.
Very good. The two of you organized a cross-cultural weekend for a group of UPike students. Dr. French, give us an overview of that trip.
Yeah, so, and actually we had a third colleague too, Dr. Summer Bingham, well, she's working on her doctorate right now,
Right.
Of religion. And so the three of us kind of kicked around this idea. I wanted to take my sustainability students, their non-majors class, so students from around the university that are not biology majors. I wanted to introduce them to international food, and I knew that this event was happening in Indianapolis.
Sure.
And it's an annual event that's held there, and so I wanted to put together a trip that just kind of snowballed from there. Talking to Diane and Summer, we got an idea to take all of these students. So we ended up taking 30 students. About half of them were international students and the other half were domestic students, and a good mix between majors. So we had some religion majors, we had some biology majors, we also had representatives from other majors as well.
Very good. All being introduced to international foods, more so than the international foods that we may have in our community, which may or may not truly be international foods, I would guess. Diane, what was the goal of the trip?
The goal was to have the students meet one another, even though that they have lunch and dinner together at the cafeteria and they
Sure.
live together in the dorms. There's no definite interaction that's planned. And so very often the students feel isolated because they deal with people that are just in their few classes, and
Right.
so they need to get out of their comfort zone a little bit and sort of have a determined, planned activity together. And those shared experiences help them build relationships and to meet other like-minded people. Someone said that friendship begins when you start talking about something, art, music, food, and you think to yourself, oh yeah, me too. And so that's
Sure.
part of the reason that we wanted to get the students together, is to have something structured so that they could talk and interact together.
Bonding exercise.
Yes.
And international students, is there a trend for those students that might be on campus to gravitate toward one another?
They do gravitate toward one another just because of their comfort zone. Very often they travel together
Sure.
when they first arrive, or they're on a team together. And so if many of them, the first international student they've ever met has been at the university. And so it's just sort of an icebreaker to get them to
Sure.
communicate. And even though they've been trained and they've been planning on attending a university in the United States, it still takes some getting used to communicate and listen all
Sure.
day to a language that's not your first language,
Right.
and learn things. So conversational English is much different than academic English. And so just to be able to get them together and sort of enlighten one another,
Right.
it will really help them with not only their conversation, but make them feel more comfortable and included and not so isolated on campus.
Dr. French, why this trip with this particular group of students?
So this particular group of students, as Diane mentioned, we really wanted to start promoting like interactions between different types of groups of students that may not normally interact on campus. So we were very intentional in the way we designed the trip. We took a U-Pike bus, so all 30 students and the 6 faculty and staff chaperones could all ride together. And our bus driver was great. He knew where he was going and got us there quickly usually. And so it was good for us to be able to use that time. You know, that's 6 hours to Indianapolis just to hang out and talk to each other on the bus. The hotels also were very intentionally designed. We put international students together with domestic students, so they were out of their comfort zones and mixed up and talking to people maybe they hadn't normally talked to before. So it was great to give everybody a perspective, as Diane mentioned, like to find those commonalities between, even though you're a different culture, you know, we all have the same emotions and the same ideas, and so to try to promote that idea, I think we did very carefully. So that particular group of students, to try to get them talking to each other, and then very intentional design with the structure of the weekend.
I would imagine a trip on a bus, those 6 hours would be so invaluable compared to class time, to where that time is going on, or the cafeteria time. Those 6 hours on a bus. I've been on bus trips before, and you get to know people.
Yeah,
closely,
I say when we first loaded the bus, they were all, it was very early in the morning, but they were all very quiet and not talking to each other. And even after the first rest stop, they were chattering more, playing cards and sharing video clips. And
It's part of the college experience.
yeah.
Diane, how do experiences like this trip help international students understand our culture?
I think it's invaluable for them because American society is not what you see on TV. And so I think a lot of us, our viewpoints of the world are very shaped by what we view and the few things that we know. And so, and a lot of our activities that we have together are with the other international students. And so if they can learn about different cultures and learn about that they still have the same values and feelings, like Darla mentioned, we all still worry about our families. We worry about our parents, and the most important thing, they like to talk about food and their friends and music and art and those kind of things. Just to see that we have more in common than we have differences really helps them. A lot of them are 10,000 miles away from home, and just to meet someone else that's their age, to say, me too, I think about that too. I like this author, I like this music, I like this band. They really enjoy it. They don't feel so isolated.
I would imagine they find that they have more in common than they thought.
Yes.
Regardless of where they come from.
Right, exactly.
Whether it's from up a holler in eastern Kentucky or across the globe. Our guest today, Dr. Darla French, Assistant Professor of Biology at the University of Pikeville, and Diane Whittier, International Student and Scholar Services at U-Pike. And you talk about international students. Those that are tuned in may have no idea of the international community that we have at the University of Pikeville. Where do these students come from? What are some of the countries that we see now on U-Pike's campus?
We have 23 different countries represented on campus.
Wow.
23. Total, we have a total of 50 international students. 2 are in medical school at CHICOM, and we have 6 that are in the MBA program.
Right.
And then we have the rest are undergraduate, and we do have 3 that are doing their optional practical training, which means they have graduated from U-Pike and they have found a job at an internship with a company or getting paid for it, and they stay for a year after they're finished with their graduation. We have 3. We also have 1 student that's interning for the General Assembly in Frankfurt this semester. So our students are anywhere from Argentina, El Salvador, Belgium, the Netherlands. We have several from China and Japan. We have 3 international students from Japan. With our sister agreement from Nagoya University, we have students that go to Nagoya and study there, and then their students come and study here. And we have a visiting professor from Yanbian, China, that is actually teaching business classes, and his wife Esther is helping in the International Services Department this semester. So it's been a really nice mix on campus.
Right. Outside of the agreements with the other university, how do students from Belgium or the Netherlands or Argentina, how do they learn about UPike?
Various ways. Many of them are sports players, and they have a recruiting clearinghouse.
Sure.
And we also have agents that we use that help recruit for UPike. And we do have some recruiting trips at very targeted places where we are looking for students that want to come to a smaller rural university. Everyone doesn't want to go to a huge university because they feel like they will get lost. So they want somewhere small where they feel comfortable and where they can get a good education, have a good experience playing their sport, and they know that they'll be taken care of at UPike.
Sure. Smaller school, but UPike is a growing university with growing programs, the professional schools as well. How big a part does that play in recruiting international students?
It does play a very big role, and as we grow, we will have more graduate students that apply. We've had several students that finished their undergraduate school and then went to finish or enroll in the Coleman College of Business for their MBA program.
Sure.
And that's been exciting to see that.
Very good. A cross-cultural weekend for a group of UPike students, both international and domestic students. And Dr. French, we've talked about up early on a bus as a group, 6-hour drive to Indianapolis for this weekend, an overnight stay in Indianapolis International Foods. After the trip, what was the response from the students?
We had a really great response from the students, both international students and our domestic students. And I think the biggest thing that came through for me was that we were successful at starting those conversations to see the commonalities between cultures. So I had several comments on student evaluations. Part of the trip was paid for by experiential learning, so there's a form that goes along with that for evaluating. And there were several comments that said, you know, man, our room stayed up until all hours of the night, and we were just comparing notes about how life is in our different cultures, and we found out there's a lot of similarities. So it seemed like they were very excited. And once we got back to campus, it was nice to see a lot of the kids that had been on the trip still going up and talking to each other in the cafeteria where maybe they hadn't known each other before the trip.
Sure.
And so I think that the relationships have stuck.
And while traveling internationally, studying internationally is a benefit, and this is for either or both of you, obviously a benefit for the international student. But what does that relationship, being able to cross cultures in a weekend like this and in everyday college life on campus, how does that affect the domestic student, the students that's from right here in Central Appalachia? How does it change them?
I feel like they get their eyes opened to the world at large and to see different viewpoints and to find out that we're not that different from each other. I think that's the biggest thing. But getting them to have new experiences, to try new foods and see new types of art and find out what other people do for fun. And we took them bowling at one point in the weekend, and we kind of intentionally set up teams where they had to be on a team with somebody they didn't know already. So
Sure.
They ended up having fun with that. So I think just opening their eyes for me was the best thing that I saw come out of it.
Diane, you deal with the international students a lot. You're able to name countries they're from, how many, you know their backstory. How does the expectation of that international student change from when they arrive to after they've been here at Pikeville for a few months even? How does their viewpoint of the culture change?
It's amazing. I was thinking of earlier this semester when I went and picked up a busload of students that were flying in from the airport. As we come down the hill into Pikeville, a couple of them said to me at 12 o'clock at night, "It's great to be home." And they feel very comfortable
Right.
here. They're treated very well. The community is very loving and accommodating to them and interested in them, genuinely interested.
Sure.
and they feel nothing but kindness and hospitality here at UPike.
Very good. Diane, when the group visited the international market, students were challenged to purchase and share the weirdest or coolest item they could find.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
It was very fun. The store at Jungle Gyms in Cincinnati is huge.
200,000 square feet.
Okay.
And anything you could possibly ever yummy imagine is there. And so they have bread, they have sushi, they have cheese, they have just, you get the picture, it's just amazing. But what I really enjoyed is they would see a food that they liked or they'd had somewhere else and run and show the professor or one of us that, wow, they've got peanut sauce here, or they've got popped sour gum or whatever. So some of the odd things they bought was they bought ghost pepper chili sauce, and that and shared that. We had canned eel. I don't know if I would recommend that. They had dried crickets, I believe, and durian candy, which is a really stinky Asian fruit that's very well loved in Southeast Asia, but it's an acquired taste.
I would imagine.
Yes, but they really got into the spirit of it and really enjoyed it very much. And I loved it. We stopped at a rest stop and shared everything that we bought. And they just were really good-natured about it. They had a great time.
Everybody tried everything pretty much.
They did, yeah.
And,
Dried crickets.
yep.
Yeah.
I was surprised by a lot of students that I
Dr.
wouldn't
French,
have guessed.
Diane, you each tried dried crickets?
No,
I did.
she's braver than I am.
And tell us, how were the dried
They're
crickets?
crunchy pretty much. That's
would
about
bet.
it. Yeah.
Now, canned eel. I'm not sure I'm interested in fresh eel,
Yes.
but you take it to another level when you can the eel. Did either of you try the canned eel?
To me, it tasted salty was all, and,
Yeah.
and fishy. Like, other than that,
Yeah, I tried it too.
yeah.
It was fine. I wouldn't.
Now we should say there was lots of good stuff there
Yes,
too.
there was a lot
that
of
we
good
tried a lot
stuff.
of good stuff. So
Those
yeah.
are some weird things.
Those are some very weird.
And,
There's some
and the
weird
kids like you to eat the weird stuff.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure.
You know, and it was like a challenge, and so Dr. French and I were ready to accept it, so we did.
I would imagine. And while relationships change between students on trips like this, they also, when they see you on campus, they now have a different viewpoint of you as well. When they see you in class, oh, Dr. French, she tried my crickets. And it changes. And the other kids see that as well. And it makes you a more real person instead of just a professor or an adult figure who's there to assist them doing a job. We're talking about a cross-cultural weekend, bringing international and domestic students together at the University of Pikeville. 50 international students currently on campus. Who knew? Those of us
wonderful.
that live outside that campus, I don't think there are a lot of people tuned in that realize that we had that number.
We've really grown in the last 3 years. We started with 13, and now we've grown 50 in 3 years, so it's been amazing.
Very good. Dr. Darla French, Assistant Professor of Biology, and Diane Whittier, International Student and Scholar Services at the University of Pikeville, our guest today. And Dr. French, the biology class, obviously in your department that participated in the trip, included non-biology majors, those that are taking biology but aren't necessarily a biology major. Last year, you taught a sustainability class that we talked about for non-majors that wasn't structured as a typical lecture course. You got out and about turning the dirt and teaching sustainability. How do students benefit from incorporating various teaching methods like that into biology courses, especially for students who aren't necessarily science majors?
Yeah, particularly for the non-science majors, any way that you can make science more accessible for them is good, because a lot of them aren't science majors to begin with because they don't like science or they're scared of science.
Sure.
And so for the non-majors in particular, I find hands-on and experiential learning opportunities really help make it more applicable to them and make them realize that they actually can do science.
Okay.
Yeah, and so the class that I taught this fall was focused on sustainability, but we were particularly looking at the food industry and agriculture, and kind of this model of how we have our food in the U.S.
Sure.
And so that's where the international event came in, because I wanted them to have an opportunity to experience other types of food outside of traditional American cuisine.
How do you tie canned eel and dried crickets into biology course?
Yeah, so the crickets, well, the eel I don't really know so much, because it's not, I don't know. Crickets, though, insects in general are eaten in a lot of countries. I'd
They
say
are.
probably the majority of the countries in the world eat insects, and
Sure.
why U.S. doesn't. So we had a discussion topic kind of centered around that.
It is interesting. It is interesting. And no, I'm not curious. I really could care less how they tasted. But the international market, international students, domestic students, expanding their horizons. Experiential learning, for someone that's tuned in, that's not in the educational field, explain experiential learning.
So experiential learning really is more hands-on than your traditional sit in a classroom and listen to the professor lecture kind of
Sure.
class. Experiential learning is more taking what you talk about in class and applying it. So the sustainability class that I taught this past fall, we did a biscuit making lesson. We went down to the UK Extension office, and they had us make biscuits. So
Sure.
it was a practical application of the food and nutrition concepts we've been talking about. We also canned applesauce. Diane
Yeah.
was willing to host us at her house. We made a big mess in the kitchen, and we made applesauce and canned it. So those types of experiential learning are just, by experiential learning, I just mean you experience the thing. You have hands-on and
Learn by
get
doing.
dirty. Yeah.
Learn by doing. And the next time you take a class to canned applesauce, I'm interested.
Okay.
I may not be interested in the crickets, the applesauce, I'm there for it. During the past few years, you've talked about the biology class and sustainability. Give us an update on the sustainability efforts at UPike.
Yeah, I think I'm still teaching sustainability classes, so I'll be teaching another one in the fall. I think sustainability really is interested and kind of looks at us trying to sustain ourselves as a species. And our current rate of resource consumption overall is not good. I mean, we're not in a good direction to be able to
Sure.
have human beings still be alive, years from now. And so really sustainability efforts at a local level need to come from the bottom up, so kind of very organic. And I do feel like we're moving towards a tipping point with the UPike student body being interested in sustainability issues and how we can be more sustainable.
Right.
There's a couple of fraternities on campus that have been talking to me about putting together a recycling program, and I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but just the fact that they're coming to talk to me about that, I think means we're getting through, or we're
Right.
helping the students realize that there are some things they can do for sustainability. So I feel like we're growing as
Sure.
a movement.
And it's a word that 5 years ago you wouldn't hear a lot
Yeah.
in this region in particular. Is it a generational thing?
It could be.
Being more concerned about our future, is it the younger generation taking the lead?
Yeah, they're looking at their future, realizing
Sure.
maybe they need to do something to ensure their own health and well-being.
Very good.
So-
Diane, UPike is, of course, study abroad for international
Yes.
students. What are some of the enrichment experiences that are available outside the classroom for international students?
We have a schedule of things that we do that we consider typically American. One of the first things we do is we help them find a bank, get a new SIM card for their phone.
Sure.
The phones are not universal, so they need to figure out that they need to communicate with their family and friends. And so that's something that is a challenge for them when they first arrive. And just the regular shopping, they're always amazed at the variety of goods that you can find at different stores. Shopping is different in other countries, and so to go to a big store where they have everything you can think of is kind of amazing. And also they love places like the amusement park. We went to Kings Island, and they very much enjoyed that. And zoos are not common either, and so I was tickled when we took them to Kings Island. They would ride the rides just one after the other, like 6-year-olds.
Yes.
And they would run and tell me about it, even though I knew when I saw them, they just needed to tell someone.
Sure.
So it was really a great experience for them to do that. And we also take them on a trip to Washington, D.C., our nation's capital,
Right.
and look at the Smithsonian museums, go to the Library of Congress, tour the Capitol, go to all the memorials, and that's very inspiring for them. They love it. We also do local trips.
Sure.
We have taken them canoeing on the Big Sandy. They
Right.
love that.
Sure.
And some of the hiking trails that are near Bob Amos Park, that's very fun for them as well. We
Right.
do things regionally, and then we do some that are within, 400 or 500 miles as
Sure.
well.
Very good. And of course, I would imagine each has a chance to enjoy Hillbilly Days.
Yes.
True American culture.
Yes, and they love it when the community invites them to their home for Thanksgiving or a shared meal for any holiday. They love that. So that's been really a good opportunity. Some people have invited international students to their home for a meal just to have them meet.
Right.
And they really appreciate that, and they love it.
I would imagine some of these students have never seen a Walmart before
Yes, that
in
would
their
be
home
true.
countries.
Mhm.
And when they experience Walmart for the first time,
They really like it. They're big fans.
for many of us who watch the videos, the people of Walmart, it's a great experience. I can't imagine what it would be like for an international student, but things that we take for granted,
Yes.
being able to find those items all in one location, the amusement parks, zoos, and those things that aren't available to those students. Part of experiential learning, studying abroad, learning a different culture. It's a great program. Diane Whittier, of course, International Student and Scholar Services at the University of Pikeville. And Dr. French, before we go, I always like to ask the faculty at UPike, the professors, about their favorite class to teach.
Oh, that's a tough one. I would say it's probably anything I'm currently teaching is what I really like to teach.
It's kind of like asking a parent, what's your favorite kid?
Yeah.
Can you talk about teaching non-biology majors? How that's different for you?
Yeah, I really do enjoy my majors classes, but the non-majors, it seems like they're so much easier to get excited about science sometimes. And so I do get a particular kick out of interacting with my non-majors.
As one of those people that is a little afraid of science, you have those students that maybe don't like, or they don't like because they're intimidated by science courses. Do you see those non-science majors maybe in one of your courses and that light bulb goes off and they realize that I can do this and I want to do? Have you seen that happen?
I have, and in most of my classes, I have students write weekly reflections. It helps me know where they are with their learning process.
Sure.
And the non-majors and their reflections over the course of the semester, they really start to have more confidence in their own ideas about science. And I've had even some explicitly say, man, it's much easier to do this than I thought. And so it's very rewarding.
I would imagine you see
that.
international students intimidated when they first arrive.
Yes, very much so.
How long does it take for them to transition to being confident and comfortable in our culture?
It depends on their language skill set, and it also depends on if they have friends or not.
Sure.
And so it's usually a couple of months, and they all go through culture shock. Everyone does when they
sure.
first leave home. I mean, I went through culture shock when I went to college as
Sure.
well, but just magnify that from moving over a continent.
Right.
But they acclimate very well, and so we try to do as much as possible. We definitely celebrate all the American holidays. They love Halloween. And any other holiday that comes up, we make sure that we look out for them and take care of them.
And that's why you're there.
Yes.
To assist in that transition. Diane Whittier, International Student and Scholar Services at UPike. Dr. Darla French, Assistant Professor of Biology. Ladies, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank
Great
you for
program.
having us.
Wish I could have gone on the trip. You've been tuned to Where the 99 Leads, a program brought to you by the University of Pikeville, the leading university of Central Appalachia. Thanks for tuning in.